All right, guys, we are live. Come on in, one and all. Great to have you here. I hope you're all doing well this last day of 2020. It could not have come soon enough, but we are counting down the hours here. If you're in Britain, just a couple of hours now. I believe as of midnight tonight, I'm ecstatic to report that Brexit is once and for all official. I know. It's like, wait a minute. I thought last January the Brexit was official. Well, in one sense, yes, but they still had to work out a lot of details. There still had to be a trade agreement where the EU officially recognized Britain as a sovereign nation. And I'm ecstatic to say that after 4 long years, actually over 4 years, 4 years and several months, the British Parliament has finally done what the British people instructed them to do. They've negotiated a trade treaty that has forced the European Union, the bullies in Brussels, to officially recognize Britain, let's hear it, as a sovereign nation. And I want to celebrate that with you tonight. That's how we're going to ring in 2021 here. And certainly we'll celebrate with any and all of our British members of our online community here. And I just want to celebrate something even more wonderful, and that is the inevitable demise of the great globalist structure of the EU. So you're going to love this today. Let's pay for our bills here. Let's give a huge shout out to the sponsor of this video, and that is Prepper's Peak new solar water heater. You know, when we got this in the mail, my kids were like, what is it? Is it a bomb? No, this may be our very best friend, especially with all the lockdowns we're witnessing. The solar water heater, it's an amazing device. It allows you to heat and boil water outdoors using simply sunlight. It can heat water as little as 30 minutes. It works anywhere the sun shines. You can use it to boil water. You can cook noodles in it. You could sterilize your water for drinking, right, for you campers. It's easy to clean. It can be used anywhere there's sunlight. And the best part is if you click on the link below, you'll actually get an additional 20% off their already reduced price. So do not wait. 'Tis a limited time offer. Click on the link below before they sell out and get your own Patriot Sun cooker like I got today. And I promise it won't blow up when you open it up there, even though it looks that way, right? All right. Well, hey, we're finally here after 4 years. The British Parliament has finally done what the British people instructed them to do on June 23rd, 2016, a day that will live in the history books for centuries. It was the day that more Brits came out to vote for the BREXIT referendum that had ever voted for a political party in Britain's history. 72% of the British voting population voted. Nearly 17 million Brits voted to leave the EU once and for all. And so here we are. The day has officially arrived. As of tonight, I believe it is midnight tonight, Britain is free. You are free forever from the EU. Now, if you do not know, the government's bill implementing the withdrawal from the EU passed both houses of Parliament. We're talking now 11 months ago, right? The House of Commons, House of Lords, earlier this year, the 2020, so January 2020, House of Commons, House of Lords passed a clean Brexit bill that enabled Britain to declare its independence as of January 31st of this year. So it's been 11 months. But the devil was still in the details. And so both sides, Britain and the EU, agreed to basically keep things the same as if Britain were still in the EU until today, December 31st. And they thought that would allow enough time to negotiate a new trade deal, which they finally agreed to. I think it was on the 24th. Is that when Boris signed it? I'm not sure. Yeah, I think it's the 24th. It was signed by Boris Johnson. It goes into effect tonight, literally hours from now. January 1st marks the first official day of a new trade agreement between two sovereigns, Britain and the EU. And that, as I'm understanding it, that is the key difference between the deal that Theresa May was trying to sell to the British people throughout 2019 and this deal that was brokered by David Frost, who was the chief negotiator for Brexit from the UK, and Prime Minister Boris Johnson, which, by the way, this deal was so popular. It got, I think, one of the most massive majority votes in Parliament ever. 458 MPs voted for it, members of Parliament voted for it. Massive majority, which is so at odds with Theresa May. Didn't her proposal get shot down? Hey, book of luck, Buffalo. Oh, guitar skills. I'm going to try to do that. You guys are awesome. I'm going to call you BB there. BB asked if I could get the guitar skills going this maybe into the new year. I am planning on doing that, BB, so hold me accountable. It is hard to get back into it. I got to get my nails right, and I got to get my calluses back on. It's all this goofy stuff, but I would love to get the guitar playing a little bit back. I miss it very much, and it's also good, as I'm getting old. Thanks, Todd. Happy New Year to you, my friend. Year of Jubilee. Yes, amen. Or the end of the year of Jubilee. Happy New Year to all of you. So anyway, Britain is going into this agreement rather united, unlike with Theresa May. I believe her proposal was shot down 3 times, if I recall, went down in flames, as it should. And it's because this deal is fundamentally different. What Theresa May was trying to do is she was trying to negotiate actually an EU treaty, as I understand it. That's how I know Nigel Farage understood it. And she tried to negotiate a treaty under European Union terms. So she treated Britain like it still belonged to the EU. And as part of the EU, she was trying to negotiate some terms for independence, but any issue that they might have coming up in the future would all be decided by EU courts. Britain would still be fully under the authority of the EU. That is not this agreement. This is emphatically not an EU treaty as May's attempt was. This treaty, brokered by David Frost, who I think did a fantastic job, is an international agreement. It is a treaty with the European Union, but it is emphatically not an EU treaty. That's a huge distinction. Where anything that went wrong with a former member of Theresa May was trying to negotiate something where anything that went wrong with a former member of the EU, namely Britain, that's all going to get resolved in EU courts. And I wonder how they're going to decide. And by the way, these will be in courts that Britain will not have any representatives in because they're no longer part of the European Parliament. So this is emphatically not what David Frost, the UK's chief negotiator, put together. He and Boris Johnson put together a thoroughgoing international treaty between 2 sovereigns, Britain and the EU. And now any issue that arises between them, and there will be plenty, they're going to be butting heads plenty. But any issues that arise between them have to go to the same international courts or same transnational arbitration that resolves any and all issues between any and all sovereign nations. So this is truly a Brexit. This treaty fully recognizes Britain's sovereignty from the EU. Nigel Farage, the original champion and leader of the Brexit movement, a hero on this channel, he pointed out, for example, that Britain was recently able to approve a vaccine weeks before the EU was able to do it, and they would never have been able to do that if they were still under EU authority. So Britain is officially now, it's a fully recognized, legally recognized sovereign. And it's exercising its own sovereignty on the international stage, and this treaty only solidifies and finalizes, in a sense, that sovereignty. Now, of course, having said all that, of course, there are problems with this treaty. And I don't know. I just don't know if there was any way around those problems. I certainly haven't. My brain hasn't figured it out, that's for sure. most notably Northern Ireland. Those of you who have been following this at all or following our channel, we did a lot of extensive, lot of videos focusing on Brexit as of, particularly December of last year and January of this year, earlier this year. Northern Ireland will unfortunately continue to follow many of the EU's rules in order to honor a 1998 peace deal. You may not be familiar with this. All, of course, our Brit viewers are. The 1998 peace deal involves the land border between Northern Ireland, which is part of Britain, and the Republic of Ireland, which is its own sovereign nation. Okay, it's the only land border between Britain and the EU, right, in existence. But because of the 1998 peace deal, there are to be no customs checks or other barriers on the border between the Republic of Ireland, which is a sovereign nation, and Northern Ireland, which is part of the UK. So the peace deal requires a porous border between the two nations. But that deal, of course, was agreed to when they were both part of the EU. So now with Brexit, they've had to figure out what to do with border control checks in place. So being your own sovereign nation now in the context of the octopus of the EU presents some unique challenges. And so Northern Ireland, again, which is part of the UK, will remain under a different constitutional arrangement than the rest of the kingdom, at least when it comes to its trade. Farrell says it's almost been hived off, and he is very concerned. I think he's right on this. He's very concerned that the consequences of doing that with Northern Ireland may actually end up inflaming Scottish secessionist sentiments, which are rather high right now. So in other words, now that you have one part of the kingdom, Northern Ireland, living under a different constitutional status from the rest of the kingdom, at least at one level, an economic level, that risks fueling the fires of Scottish independence. Now, maybe Scotland wants to live under a different constitutional status as well. We'll have to see what happens there. But that might be a very real consequence of this agreement. We'll see. Also, Britain's fishing industry. I agree. I think they got the short end of the stick on this deal. Again, I don't know if there was any way around it. But they're basically calling it an adjustment period over the next 5 years for the British fishing industry, that it's still under a lot of EU regulations, but they're saying it's only for 5 years. And then after 5 years, they're going to be completely free from all of that in 2026. There's a lot of skeptics to that. They're saying that so-called adjustment period really never practically ends. The UK will not fully own the fish that swim within Britain's sovereign economic zone, even after 2026. For example, Britain, in some circumstances, is going to still have to pay compensation to the EU in order to fish within their own waters, in order for Brits to fish within sovereign British territorial waters. So the fishery aspect of the agreement seems to be pretty bad. But having said all that, this is probably the single best deal that Britain could have negotiated at this time, just given the insane globalist arrangement of the EU. And again, it was an infinitely better deal than what Theresa May was negotiating before her and the Tories' humiliating defeat with the EU elections back in May of 2019, when 1 in 3 Brits voted for the Brexit party when it was just barely 6 weeks old. Gang, there is a lesson in there for us here in the United States. The way Brexit played out can help us in our politics here in trying to deal with a feckless and gutless Republican Party. Before we get into that, I do want to personally invite you all to our exclusive New Year's virtual conference on January 9th, 2021. It's going to help you feel prepared for the year ahead. Doesn't matter where you are. It's a virtual conference. You don't have to leave your bedroom or your living room or anything like that. You just click on the link and you'll be right there. It's live on a Saturday, January 9th, 2021. We've got Pennsylvania State Senator Doug Mastriano. He'll be with us. Of course, he got the ball rolling in Gettysburg. He spearheaded the Gettysburg hearings where Rudy Giuliani testified and President Trump telephoned in. We're also going to have Ian Smith, the New Jersey gym owner, defying his governor's tyrannical lockdown orders. This is going to be a great conference, and I'll be speaking too on the rise of nationalist populism all over the world. Now, seating for the conference is limited. Seats are going fast. And to make it even better for you, you can save 30% off your registration as part of our New Year's special. So do not wait. Make sure to click on that link below and take advantage of our New Year's registration special. And you'll be glad to know that part of the proceeds are going to Good Neighbors Home Repair. So not only are you going to get blessed in this, but you're going to be blessing others as well. So don't wait. Click on that link below and register for our New Year's virtual conference today. All right. So one of the things that we're going to need to be talking about, I have a feeling, at the beginning of the year, the new year, if the Republicans turn out to be even more gutless and feckless than they've already demonstrated themselves to be. One of the things we're going to have to talk about is what Nigel Farage did. Okay. When he saw that Theresa May and the gutless and feckless conservatives, the Tories, it's the same thing. Conservative Party and Tories are the same party. When he saw that she was deliberately trying to sabotage Brexit, very similar to the way establishment Republicans are trying to sabotage President Trump's reelection. When Nigel Farage saw that, and he was doing everything he could to work within, I mean, he was not himself a Tory, but trying to work within the establishment to try to rectify what Theresa May was doing. At one point, he just said, that's it. We're going third party. Okay. And third party, of course, is just an expression, right? It's a party outside of the two main, center left, center right parties. Britain's actually got several parties, but we're going to go third party. We are turning our backs on the conservatives, right? The Tories. They are no longer fit for purpose. And we're going to form our own Brexit party, which they did. And what they did is they formed a Brexit party, and in literally, listen to this, in 6 weeks, I think he formed it in April of 2019, and they had these upcoming European Parliament elections at the end of May in 2019, like May 20th, 21st. Nigel Farage formed the Brexit party, and in 6 weeks, they decimated the Conservative Party. The Brexit Party decimated the Tories, absolutely decimated them. 1 in 3 Brits, as I mentioned earlier, 1 in 3 Brits voted for a party that was barely 6 weeks old. That's the power that you can have with a third party. As a matter of fact, if I recall, in the European elections, didn't the Conservatives come in like 4th or 5th place? They were in single digits, if I recall, in terms of the percentage of vote. I mean, it was a humiliation. And so, and this is key, and so the Tories, the Conservatives had to, in the name of survival, they had to embrace Brexit. They had to embrace a nationalist populism that had made Brexit so fervently popular. Up until that point, they were led by a bunch of Mittens, Romneys, who wanted to placate the European Union so much that, in effect, they nullified any semblance of an actual Brexit, an actual break from the EU. Just the very same way that Romney, right, wants to turn the Republican Party back into a Democrat-light party, a thoroughly corporatist globalist party that embraces anything and everything that CNN embraces, right? Just not to the extent that the Democrats do. So Romney republicanism is just simply a tapping of the brakes in this, surrendered movement towards unfettered progressivism. Well, because of the rise of this third party, the Brexit party, the Tories were forced to embrace Brexit fully. They had to turn, they had to do an about face, they had to reinvent themselves now as a thoroughly pro-Brexit party with pro-Brexit leaders in power like Boris Johnson. And as a result, they went on to win one of the biggest landslide victories in December of 2019, literally just 6 months or so after their humiliating defeat in the European Parliament elections in May. They turned around, and in December 2019, they won. These are the Tories, the Conservatives. They won one of the biggest landslide victories that British politics has seen in 100 years. So that's what we're going to need to be talking about if Republicans prove themselves to be as feckless as the Theresa May Tories were back prior to the European Parliament elections. We may need to be talking serious about forming a Patriot Party, a third party, which will in turn strategically force feckless Republicans out of leadership and put hardcore deplorables, MAGA Trumpians, fully in power in the leadership of the Republican Party. And our model would be precisely what Nigel Farage did with the Brexit Party in relation to the Tories. So we'll be talking about that here. But I am digressing a little bit here. The huge takeaway in all, and gang, thanks for the super chats. Thank you so much. I have the computer down here, but my camera is up here, so I don't get to see, but I'm seeing them there. And thank you guys so much. I see some pounds sterling there. Thank you, sir. And a very marvelous official Brexit to you. The big takeaway in all of this, of course, is that after over 4 years, Britain, as of this evening, finally has an official Brexit with trade terms agreed to by all. It was a long time coming, but my, was it worth it. And make no mistake, with the final realization of Brexit, the EU, the European Union, for the first time ever, has actually shrunk. It has actually begun devolving and contracting. Globalism got smaller tonight, officially. And you know, Soros and the bullies in Brussels, they're actually on record with this. They were so frightened by Brexit, and they did everything they possibly could to thwart it, precisely because they knew that if Britain flourishes, apart from the EU, as they will, of course, as they already have been doing, other member nations are going to want to leave as well. Once that Brexit genie is out of the bottle, there is no putting it back. So even now as we speak, polls show that a majority, both in France and in Italy, want to leave the EU. They're ready. Even Macron, French President Emmanuel Macron, who's slowly becoming a hero on this channel, believe it or not. I mean, Macron, would it not be amazing if Macron got red-pilled? I mean, you know, the self-proclaimed Napoleon of Europe, the European Union. I mean, would it not be amazing if he really honestly got red-pilled? We'll see. I don't know. But even Macron has been talking about the possibility of a Frexit in the very near future, of France doing what Britain did. And that there is nothing he can do to stop it. Marine Le Pen of the National Rally, the National Populist Party there in France, she's promising to make a referendum part of her campaign for president in 2022. I think they're 5 years, every 5 years. So make no mistake, this is just the beginning, right? Brexit is the shot that's heard around the world, a shot that will be nothing less than the beginning of the end of one of globalism's major centers, the European Union, and the end of the bullies in Brussels. So with that, gang, to all of our dear British brethren, well done. You are finally and officially free. May God shine on Britain freedom's light for generations to come. Smell that sovereignty. Enjoy it. And to all of you, a blessed and safe and happy and healthy and prosperous new year. Thank you so very much for all of your support throughout this year. It was indeed a horrible year. Oh my, 2020 is not going to be missed, but it was also a year that this channel grew by leaps and bounds, and I have you to thank for that. Thank you, one and all. A blessed New Year's to you, your loved ones. See you guys in 2021, the year of a sovereign Britain and the demise of the EU. A new conservative age is rising. God bless, guys.